العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدم. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
To store it or to keep it. It means al-iqtina'u, to keep it, lizinati, أو لبيع لزينة أو لبيع أو شراء ونحوها. So اتخاذ is when you're using something and you're keeping something either for beautification purposes or for buying and selling or other needs. Other needs. As for استعمال, استعمال means what? استعمال means مباشرة الانتفاع به. مباشرة الانتفاع به. مباشرة الانتفاع به فيما يستعمل فيه أو فيما يستعمل له. مباشرة الانتفاع به فيما يستعمل له أو فيه. استعمال simply means using a vessel for what it is normally used for. Cups are used for what? Drinking. If you buy a cup from the shop and you keep it in your house to drink from, then you've kept it for what? For استعمال. If you buy a cup from the shop and you put it on your shelf, you never drink from it and you've placed it on the shelf, is that استعمال or اتخاذ? اتخاذ. You buy a massive bowl and you use it for breakfast every day. Is that اتخاذ or is that استعمال? استعمال. طيب. Pay attention to this because later on when we get to gold and fidda, we're going to need it. What are those two words that you're going to memorize? اتخاذ and استعمال. اتخاذ for beautification purposes. استعمال is using that thing for what it was originally made for. طيب. So every tahir in a vessel, even if it is expensive, it is permissible to use and to keep. To use and to keep. إلا, except for آنية الذهب وفضة. Except for آنية الذهب وفضة. Except for vessels that are made of gold or fidda or silver, ومضببا بهما, or that one of them is plated with or mixed with. So there are three things that are haram. Gold only using what's it called? اتخاذ, using gold only cups or a gold jug. Number one. Or a silver jug to make wudu from, or cup, anything, or cutlery. Is that understood? And anything that contains them. So for example, you've got a cup, 60% of which is like metal, and let's say it's 9 karat gold, or 15, or 21, or 18 karat gold. It's not fully what? Gold. Lakin it is what? It contains gold, or it contains silver. That is also muharram. That is the meaning of وَمُضَبَّبًا بِهِمَا. Is that understood so far? So you can use any type of aniya, any type of vessels for keeping meaning for display purposes, or buying or selling. And you can use any type of ina, even if it is expensive, for making wudu with, eating and so on with. Except for dhahab and fidda. For dhahab and fidda, you cannot use it, and it is haram. وَالدَّلِيلُ ذَلِكَ, and the evidence for this is the hadith of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, in which he said, لا تشربوا في آنية الذهب والفضة. Do not drink from cups of gold, made of gold or silver. ولا تأكلوا في صحافهما or في صحافها, and do not eat from its plates. Gold plates or bowls or silver plates or bowls. لا تشرب في آنية الذهب والفضة ولا تأكل في صحافها فإنها لهم في الدنيا ولنا في الآخرة. فإنها لهم في الدنيا ولهم في الآخرة. And the hadith of Salama رضي الله عنها, which she said that the Prophet ﷺ said, الذي يشرب, the one that drinks from, الذي يشرب في آنية الفضة, the one that drinks from a vessel of silver, a silver vessel, إنما يجرجر في بطنه نار جهنم. Verily he is only putting into his body نار جهنم, the fire of Jahannam, والعياذ بالله. And these two ahadith show the impermissibility of using ذهب والفضة, استعمال ذهب والفضة. If you concentrate on the hadith, لا تشربوا, do not drink, صح? And do not eat, صح? And the hadith of Salama, لا الذي يشرب, the one that drinks from. The two hadiths that I've just mentioned, are they talking about اتخاذ or استعمال? استعمال, صح? طيب. So far we've got two مسائل. Number one, يجوز اتخاذ واستعمال آنية غير الذهب والفضة. It is permissible to use and to keep vessels that are not gold and silver. The next mas'ala that you've just studied now is, it is impermissible to, or استعمال الذهب والفضة محرم. Using, drinking from, or eating, doing استعمال of gold and fidda is haram, or anything that contains them, صح? طيب. For gold and fidda, does he mention اتخاذ? Does he mention اتخاذ? لا. Not so far. Meaning he doesn't say it is ويباح اتخاذه واستعماله. طيب ومدبنا فإنه يحرم اتخاذه واستعماله. لا عفوا, he mentions that it's haram. إلا أن يتذهب الفضة. فإنه, for verily, gold and silver يحرم اتخاذها واستعمالها. يحرم اتخاذها واستعمالها. It is haram to do اتخاذ of it, meaning to keep it for beauty purposes and so on and so forth, just to keep it in store, in a storage space for keeping. واستعمالها, or to do استعمال of it, to benefit from it how it is normally used. Is that understood? So what is haram? What does the Shaykh say is haram? اتخاذ and استعمال. Lakin the two hadiths that we studied, which mas'ala do they point towards? اتخاذ or استعمال? استعمال. طيب. So in these two hadiths, now that you've studied it is haram to eat from and to drink from gold vessels and silver vessels, what is the ruling on keeping gold and silver vessels for beautification purposes at home or in the office? That question is for the sisters. Is it permissible or not permissible? Permissible? نعم. Huh? Permissible. Why is it permissible? طيب, number one, the hadith says لا تشربوا, we normally drink, like the hadith is not talking about اتخاذ. الذي يشرب, the one that drinks from a silver vessel. Nothing to do with اتخاذ. So yes, we're not allowed to use them for eating and drinking. Like as for اتخاذ, the sisters say that it is permissible because it doesn't point towards them. Do the brothers agree? You all agree? So we can have مثلا, so according to the brothers and sisters, we can have gold-plated cups, gold cups and so on in display at home. يحرم. Like what I'm talking about in terms of the dalil that I've just told you, what does the dalil point towards? استعمال. Does it point towards اتخاذ? لا. طيب we can't use it إجماع خلاص لكن استعمال using it اتخاذ. So you're opposing the جمهور العلماء في هذا البلد. Okay. Okay. أحسنت. طيب, that's good. نعم. طيب, the second, or this evidence, hadith, the hadiths show that you can't use it. لكن the scholars derive from that, istinbat, they say that even keeping it and using it for beautification is haram. لماذا? They say that the hadith talks about what we all are in need of, what we're in need of, which is to eat and drink. If we're not allowed to use gold and silver for our basic human needs, then it is min babi awla, is more befitting to make it haram for things that we might not need to use every single day. So they say from that angle it is haram. They say from that angle it's haram. And obviously that is the opinion of the majority of scholars. طيب, walau ala untha, even upon the female. يعني even, it is even haram. What is haram? اتخاذ استعمال الذهب والفضة. Why does he even mention أنثى? Why does it say ولو على أنثى والرجال والأولاد? Why doesn't he say this?
Because for the women it's permissible for them to adorn themselves.
نعم. For beautification purposes, for women it is permissible for them to have gold. For beautification. أو من ينشأ في الحلية وهو في الخصام غير مبين. For beautification purposes, a woman is allowed to beautify herself with gold, whether it's going to parties, whether it's staying at home, whether it's beautifying herself with her husband. She's allowed to have gold and silver as beautification. Lakin we gave her the permissibility, or the Sharia allows her to beautify herself with this, lakin doesn't allow her to keep gold and silver for beautification in terms of decoration and so on and so forth. That's why he says, وَلَا عَلَىٰ أُنْثَى. And then you can write on there, ولو على أنثى لعموم النهي يعني after ولو على أنثى the تعليل is لعموم النهي وعدم المخصص, due to the generality of the prohibition. The hadith says don't drink and eat, صح? So women come under that. And عدم المخصص, there's nothing to specify women out. طيب. So far, he tells us what all types of vessels and pots and cutlery are halal to make wudu from and to keep, except for نعم يباح اتخاذه استعمالا اتخاذه both permissible, except for ذهب and fidda, صح? That is not permissible. Rather, anything to do with ذهب and fidda is impermissible, except for what we shall see, even upon the women. وتصح. طيب, what is the hikmah? Some of the scholars mention different hikam. They say that, number one, it is sarf, madhinnatu sarf, or waste of money. It is wasting money. Number two, it is a sign of khuyala, or it can lead to khuyala, it can lead to kibr and haughtiness. Number three, kasru qulubil fuqara. It will give hard feelings to the fuqara, or the fuqara will be saddened by seeing you as a Muslim having gold baths, gold sink, gold plates displayed on the shelf, and they can't even afford the quti yawmihim. They can't even afford food to eat and drink that day. Lakin these are hikam, these are wisdoms. As for the illah, in other types of ahkam, there's a difference between illah and hikmah. Hikmah is something that is the benefit of you abiding by the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lakin the illah is the reason why this has been legislated. So for example, when we're traveling, we're allowed to shorten our salah and we're allowed to break our fast. Break our fast. What is the illah? The illah is what? La. If you say mashaqqa, it's wrong. Because That means if you go on an easy journey, you're not allowed to shorten. The illah, the reason why shortening and combining has been legislated is because al-illah is safar, you're traveling. It is not because of the difficulty. The difficulty is from the hikam, the wisdom why shortening or these concessions have been provided. Now, in the Sharia we have something which is called the illah. Illah is why a certain ruling has been legislated. So for example, let's say you're traveling in the month of Ramadan and you're traveling to Umrah. Because you're traveling, you're allowed to shorten your salah. And you're allowed to break your fast for that day. You don't have to fast. The illah, the reason why it has been legislated is because you are وَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا عَلَى سَفَرٍ. Whoever is, because you're traveling, you're allowed to take advantage of these concessions. Like in the wisdom behind it is that it will be difficult for you. It may be difficult for you. And traveling is difficult as it is. It is a form of punishment itself. طيب? So do not mix these two things. Al-illah is a lot more important than the hikmah. Because the hikmah, the wisdom behind something, you might not even know. But the illah is something that you know. In any case, leave that out if you didn't understand it. Like inshallah, it will be, once you revise, it will get easier. Then the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, a next mas'ala. So write meme on top of what's a sihr. Let's go back. Afan, go to back. Say kullu ina'in tahirin. Write meme 1. Meme 1. Meme 1. Sorry, meme 1. It's that mas'ala. It stands for mas'ala. Meme mas'ala 1. Meme 1. At the beginning, kullu ina'in. Every ina is permissible. Meme 1. First mas'ala. And then a few words down, you see illa aniyat al-dhahab. Write meme 2. Meme ithnan. And then وتصح الطهارة منها write ميم 4 ميم 3 ميم 3. The third mas'ala. شوف, when you break the matan down like that, it makes it a bit easier. It's not just kalam, mas'ala after mas'ala after mas'ala. It's like you're going from one bridge to another or one step to another. طيب وتصح الطهارة منها إلا ضبة يسيرة من فضة يسيرة من فضة. طيب وتصح الطهارة منها. The Shaykh says rahimahullah, however, although it is haram to use, although what is haram to use? ذهب فضة, لكن تصح الطهارة منها. It is permissible for you to make wudu from. It is permissible for you to make wudu from. وتصح يعني your wudu is valid. مثلا, you have a gold jug. You make wudu from it. You put your hand in it and make wudu from it. We've already studied that it is haram for you to have this. Is that understood? Lakin he says it is permissible for you to make wudu. Your wudu is correct. Isn't he contradicting himself? تأثم على نعم. تأثم, you're sinning for the gold that you've used. However, the water that you've made wudu with is impermissible. Afwan, is permissible for you to make wudu from. Sah? Have you understood this mas'ala? You can't have gold sinks. But if you put water in a sink and you make water from the sink, wudu from the sink, then your wudu is what? Valid. طيب. We're going to see somewhere along the line when we get to wudu that you can't make wudu from water that is stolen and that your wudu is valid. What's the difference? Is he contradicting himself? لا, not أثناء العبادة. Nothing to do when it is the time.
The prohibition or the problem is with the water, for the stolen water, the water that you need it for tahar, but first on the sink,
Or the vessel.
You don't use the sink for wudu, you use the water for wudu.
So it is not connected to the condition. Naam, that is the difference. When you steal water, don't steal water. Like in the unlikely event of you stealing water, you're making wudu. The connection, the prohibition is connected to the water that you're actually making wudu with. صح? Like with here, the vessel is not a condition for water. صح? The vessel is nothing to do with your wudu. Yes, you're sinning for keeping it, but it is nothing to do with, and it doesn't say you have to store your wudu water in a halal place. There's nothing in the Sharia that states that. طيب إلا ضبة يسيرة. طيب. Then the Shaykh says rahimahullah, although it is haram for you to use dhahab and fidda and to do isti'mal of dhahab and fidda, lakin there's an exemption which is that you're allowed to use, or even before that, sorry. With regards to the gold and silver, there's 3 or 4 things. Minhu, bihi, fihi, ilayhi. Lakin leave that for now, inshallah. Leave that. طيب, anyhow. إلا ضبة يسيرة من فضة وتكره مباشرتها لغير حاجة. طيب. The Shaykh says rahimahullah, he's talking about a masala that many of us can't understand. Now, when we have a cup and let's say the handle breaks off or there's a crack in the cup, what do? We don't fix it, we throw it away. Let's not be righteous here. We throw it away, sah? And then we go and buy a new one. In the past, because they didn't have a lot of money, or wealth wasn't, alhamdulillah, as it is now, they would fix the cup that they had, or the plate that they had. So the Shaykh is saying, it is permissible for you to fix your cup or your vessel with a small part of fidda, hadith, because it is quality in terms of preserving the vessel or preserving the cup. And the dalil for this is the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith of Anas, where he said, أن قدح النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم انكسر فاتخذ مكان الشعب سلسلة من فضة. One of the cups of the Prophet ﷺ broke, or one of the vessels of the Prophet ﷺ broke, and then in order to bring it together and to connect it, the Prophet ﷺ used silver lining to bring the cup together. So it is permissible to use. طبعا obviously we don't use nowadays. Lakin, in any case, it is permissible. Lakin it has to be silver and it has to be a small amount. ضبة يسيرة, that is a ضابط. Underline يسيرة. من فضة, it has to be from silver, can't be with gold. And it has to be لحاجة. And these 3 are called dawabid. And the benefit of dawabid is like restrictions. You're limited to X, Y, Z. Dawabid is like conditions. So these are the dawabid, or the conditions for you to be able to use or fix your cups or your plates with silver. It has to be a small amount. And it has to be with fidda, not gold. And it has to be lihaja, due to a need. Like due to a need other than beautification. Other than beautification. It doesn't mean that if you can find something else to fix it with, that you can't use silver. You can use silver because you're not using it for beautification purposes. Then the Shaykh says, وَتُكْرَهُ مُبَاشَرَتُهَا لِغَيْرِ حَاجَة. Lakin it is, okay. وَتُكْرَهُ مُبَاشَرَتُهَا. نعم. Lakin he says, وَتُكْرَهُ. نعم. وَتُكْرَهُ. Put meme 4, صح? Meme 4. Right. Remember when he said you can fix your cup up with a bit of silver? He's saying when you do fix it, if you want to drink from the cup, you can't drink from the bit where it's got the silver lining. وَتُكْرَهُ مُبَاشَرَتُهَا. So say your cup is here. Say this is your cup. And there was a long line here that was broken. You use silver to bring it together. صح? Once you bring it together, وَتُكْرَهُ مُبَاشَرَتُهَا. This part is disliked for me to drink from it. I should drink from other parts of the cup. Is that understood? وَتُكْرَهُ مُبَاشَرَتُهَا, he says. Why? لِغَيْرِ حَاجَة. Lakin if it is not out of need, then it is disliked. It is disliked.
So does mubashara mean more than just drinking?
Mubashara, drinking or using. No. Come into contact. Why? Because it was initially what? Aslan, it was only haram. It was only haram. It was haram. And now that we're allowed to use it for haja, if there is no need to use it, then it becomes disliked. Lakin, there's another opinion which is that it is not disliked. Because there's a concession. You're allowed to use it. So why is it disliked? Why is it disliked? So the second opinion is that it is not disliked. Is that understood? طيب. وتباح آنية الكفار ميم 5 صح؟ ميم 5. ميم 5 صح؟ طيب. ميم 5 وتباح آنية الكفار ولو لم تحل ذبائحهم وثيابهم إن جهل حالها. The next مسألة is وتباح is permissible. آنية الكفار are permissible. The vessels of the kuffar. For example, they bring food to you. Can you drink from there? Or you live from the vessels that they bring it to you in, or food in. Or you live near them. Can you borrow them? Can you borrow their cutlery and so on? The Shaykh says, نعم تباح آنية الكفار. طيب, it is permissible to use. ولو لم تحل ذبائحهم. Even if what they slaughter is not permissible. What does he mean? وَلَوْ لَمْ تَحِلَّ ذَبَائِحُهُم. Even if even if it's not permissible.
There's a law here, there's a khilaf.
نعم. So that's one مسألة. There's a khilaf. لكن also what? Other than Ahlul Kitab. Whose meat are we allowed to eat? Ahlul Kitab. So the Shaykh is saying to you, he's trying to rule out you thinking that we're only allowed to use the aniyah of Ahlul Kitab. Is that understood? He wants to rule that out. So because he wants to rule it out, he says, we're allowed to use the aniyah of the non-Muslims, وَلَوْ لَمْ تَحِلَّ الذَّبَائِحُ. Even if their dhaba'ih, what they slaughter, is impermissible. I.e. the non-Ahlul Kitab. I.e. the non-Ahlul Kitab. وَثِيَابُهُمْ إِن جُهِلَ حَالُهَا. And even their thiyab, and also their thiyab, their clothing is permissible for us to wear in juhila haluha. In juhila haluha. If we do not know whether it is clean or not. طيب. This qa'idah goes back to what? What he's just mentioned, meme 5, masala 5. Goes back to what? Al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha. And the ani of the kuffar, is it not from the ashya? The clothing of the kuffar, isn't it from the ashya? Illa. So he says, وَثِيَابُهُمْ إِن جُهِلَ طيب إن جُهِلَ حالها. So with regards to the clothing and the ani of the kuffar, it is one of 3 types. It is one of 3 types. Number 1, أن نعلم طهارتها. أن نعلم طهارتها. We know that it is pure. It is clean. We know that it is clean. مثلا, for example, you live together and you're, for whatever reason, and you can see he's just washed the cup or the plate or the pot, the pan, whatever it might be. You see that he's just washed it. You know that it is what? Tahir. Therefore it is permissible. That's the first thing that comes underneath it. Number 2, أن نعلم نجاستها. That we know it is impure. We know that it is impure. مثلا, we see that he's just cooked something that, مثلا, swine. Or khamar, he's put in there. We say what? You know that that is najis, that is dirty. Therefore, it is not permissible for you to use until you wash it. Until you wash it. The third possibility is أن نجهل حالها. That we are, or we don't know whether it is pure or impure. And that third scenario is the one that the Mu'allif rahimahullah mentions in the matan. وَثِيَابُهُمْ إِن جُهِلَ حَالُهَا. And their clothing and their aniyah is permissible if we are ignorant of the ruling of whether they're tahir or not. And why is that? Al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha. Al-ibaha. طيب. لكن here we have, leave that. طيب. على كل خلاص. Then the Shaykh says رحمه الله ولا يطهر ميم 6. Meme 6. Meme 6. So just to go back onto that, مثلا, let's say you buy clothing from, مثلا, from the market, or shops, or shopping centre, wherever it might be. You buy new clothing. Do you have to wash it? Do people wash new clothing, by the way? Huh? Like, I'm talking about what do you guys do? No. طيب. You do know that people might try it on the changing room, innit? طيب. You take them on the back, that no one's tried on. طيب. In any case, if you buy something new, you don't have to wash it, because the asl is that it is what? Pure. طيب. Also, when you're talking about the clothing of the kuffar, there are those that they wear, and there are those that are brand new, for example. طيب. The brand new ones, obviously, you don't have to make wudu from, or you don't have to wash. Lakin, some of the fuqaha say that, with regards to the clothing that they wear, ما يلي العورة, you have to wash, or you should wash. ما يلي العورة, that which is in contact with the awrah, it's good for you to wash. Why? Well, yeah, underwear you won't really, or trousers, where any awrah parts that they're going to be touching, that you would, just for hygienic purposes, you need to wash. طيب. Then the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, طيب. Then the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, ولا يطهر جلد ميتة بالدباغ مسألة 6 صح؟ طيب. ولا يطهر, and it does not become pure, or the carcass, the skin of the carcass, the meita, does not become pure بالدباغ, by tanning it. طيب. Meita. What is a meita? Write down. الميتة ما مات حتف أنفه. ما مات حتف أنفه أو قتل على هيئة غير مشروعة. الميتة ما مات حتف أنفه أو قتل على هيئة غير مشروعة. It means ما مات على حتف أنفه, ما مات حتف أنفه. It is that thing that dies without wanting to die. مثلا, it is thrown off a bridge, or it is strangled without choice, it is killed, or it is slaughtered or killed in a way that it is not permissible, or it is killed in a way that it is not permissible. طيب. And animals obviously are of different types. There are, مثلا, predators. Predators, if you see a dead predator, that is called a what? Meita. That is called a meita, because there's no way of even slaughtering. And you don't say Bismillah and slaughter a tiger. It is impossible to do so. Therefore, we're not allowed to eat that. So if you see a dead tiger, that is a meita. Or if you see, for example, a sheep that has drowned in the water, that is called a meita. Normally we're allowed to eat the sheep, صح? لكن here, قتل أو مات على هيئة أو حتف أنفه, he just died, being strangled or put into the water, drowning. So that is called a meita. Is that understood? That's the first thing you need to understand. What is a meita? ما مات حتف أنفه أو قتل على هيئة غير شرعية. Or it is something that is killed in a way that is not permissible to kill. For example, electrocuting a sheep, it dies. That is not the legitimate legislated way of slaughtering. So now that you know what a meita is, he says, rahimahullah, وَلَا يَطْهُرُ جِلْدُ مَيْتَ. The skin of this meita, we obviously know that you can't eat the meat of the meita, صح? So we're not talking about the meat. We're going to talk about that in Babel, Kitab al-At'imah. Like in here, he's talking about the skin. The skin of the meita, he says, لا يطهر جلد ميتة بالدباغ. طيب. So that meta, the skin, we're not allowed to tan it and we're not allowed to benefit from it. Why is he even mentioning this mas'ala here? Why didn't he mention it Kitab al-Hajj or Kitab al-Salah?
Because they normally tan the skin to make vessels out of it.
Nah, they normally tan the skin to make vessels out of it. And in the past it was used, and even in the Bedouin now you can find it as well. So when they're taking water, when they've got water, it's like a little small leather sack. They keep their water in there. That's why he's mentioning it here. So the maita, the skin of the maita cannot be tanned. And if it is tanned, لا يطهر, it doesn't become pure. Is that understood so far? طيب. Dibagh is tanning. طيب. How does tanning take place? How do people tan skin? مثلا fur, fur, animal fur. How do they get it like that? How do they manage to make a coat out of it? How do they tan it?
Normally they wash the skin off the veins and things like that. Then they put it out in the sun and let the heat touch it until it reaches certain...
Okay, so they rip the skin out and then they wash it and then they leave it out in the sun. That's what they used to do in the Stone Ages, huh? A brush? Okay, so they use a brush. Chemicals. Get the what?
The bark off the tree, and soak it.
Bark?
Bark off the trees.
Okay.
And soak in water. And the water that comes out.
Okay. And then it becomes okay to use. Any other way? The reason why I asked that is because the brothers mentioned different things, right? So dibaq is not specific. It goes back to the urf. It is from those ahkam that go back to the urf. How we use it to tan in the UK may be different to how they use it in other parts of the world. So tanning is dependent on, or dibaq, dependent on the custom. And on that note, al-ahkam al-shari'iyya thalathatu anwa'. The ahkam of the sharia are of three types. Al-ahkam أو أحكام شرعية. أحكام شرعية. Ahkam, rulings pertaining to the Sharia. For example, how to make wudu, how to pray, the way of doing, مثلا, the conditions for nikah and so on and so forth. These are ahkam or ibadat, مثلا. These are ahkam shari'iyah. When do you fast? Why do you fast in Ramadan and you don't fast in Rajab? Hukum shari'i, صح? طيب. Number two, ahkam urfiyah. Ahkam urfiyah. Rulings that are of the urf, connected to the urf. The custom of the people, the norm. The custom of the people. I.e., النفقة الزوجة. The nafaqa, how a man provides for his wife, what he should give. Has the Sharia said that you should give your wife 10,000 a month? وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, the Sharia says. And deal with them in goodness. And the Prophet ﷺ said to Hind, the female companion, when she was complaining about her husband, he said to her ﷺ, خُذِي مَا يَكْفِيكِ وَوَلَدِكِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So these sorts of ahkam, and even nikah, how the nikah is done, the ceremony and so on, these are ahkam urfiyah, they go back to the urf. And from the ahkam al-khamsa, the five major principles, al-adatu muhakkama, or al-urf, the custom. So that is from the ahkam shari'ah. And the last one is ahkamun qada'iyah. Ahkam qada'iyah. And that is ahkam that go back to court. Ahkam that go back to the court that the judge gives.
Would you say examples like حد السرقة?
لا, حد السرقة is حكم شرعي. التعزير can be قضائي. تعزير يعني a person commits a sin and that sin doesn't have a specific punishment. مثلا, a despicable person puts cameras in the women's changing room. Haram, صح? طيب. Lakin, can we find a verse in the Quran where it shows a punishment for him or hadith? لا. That goes back to the Sharia. that goes back to the hakim, what he feels befitting. Sorry for the gruesome example. ويباح طيب ولا يطهر جلد ميتة. So we've already established that the skin of the carcass or the dead animal that hasn't been slaughtered in the Shari'i way is impermissible. لكن he says ويباح استعماله بعد الدبغ في يابس من حيوان طاهر في الحياة. طيب, now he's going to go back to what he just said to you. He said to you that the mayta is haram, صح? And it doesn't become pure. لكن يباح استعماله, لكن it becomes permissible to use. I never said to you he's saying it's pure, but it is permissible to use. That's number one. بعد الدبغ, after it has been tanned, في يابس, in things that are dry, i.e. sugar, barley, other types of grains, to use as a storage space or to use it as storage for things that are dry. The opposite to yabis, you can write on top of it, la al-ma'i'at. On top of yabis means dry. So you say on top of it, la al-ma'i'at. Not to liquid things. Not to liquid things. So he's saying to you, طيب, مثلا you've got min hayawan tahir. What is a hayawan that is tahir? Sheep, let's say. Sheep, you find the sheep that has drowned in water. You bring it out. Can you slaughter it and say Bismillah? No. You can't eat it. Sah? He's already told us that jild, the skin of that sheep, is not what? لا يطهر. He's saying. صح? طيب, لا يطهر. Lakin he's saying to you, you can use it. We don't want to totally waste it. You can use it after you tan it. So you can use that skin of that sheep because it is a hayawan that is tahir. After you tan it, and even when you tan it, you can only use it in dry food, for dry food. For example, coffee, tea bags, and so on. You can place it in there. And we said that the opposite to that is la al-ma'i'at, meaning we can't get water and store water in there, or honey, or milk. And they say the ta'leel, or the reason, is because the ma'i', the thing that is running, it literally touches the jild. The jild, we already said it's not tahir. So if that non-tahir jild skin touches liquid water, then it is going to become najis because of it. Like in things that are dry, coffee, rice, and so on, it doesn't absorb the najasa because it is not liquid, it is not running. يختلط بالنجاسة إلا هذا هو يختلط بالنجاسة. It becomes one with the najasa. Is that understood? طيب. What has the Shaykh just mentioned? Who can summarize what he's just mentioned? صح, لا, Ismail, summarize it. Did you put your hand up? Did you have your hand up, Ismail? Gone. Sorry, Abdillah.
So if you find like a dead sheep,
excellent, or a dead, any other pure animal,
if you find like a dead pure animal, then you can like after it's been tanned, you can use it, but only for dry foods.
Excellent, excellent. In order to not waste it. Naam. So that is what the author, rahimahullah, is telling us. طيب. So, and there's another opinion, which is any animal that is ma'kul, that is normally eaten, then even if his najas, if the skin of that animal can be used. For example, sheep, camels. What else? Cows. Huh? 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 What? Oh, horse, yeah. I thought you said couscous, that's a type of food. طيب. Horse, na'am. So let's say we have a maita, an animal that has just died like that, electrocuted or stabbed or any other way. That is a maita. That maita because it is an animal that is ma'kulul lahm, that the animal is eaten, you can what? Benefit from the skin. And you can do dabghi of it, you can tan it and use it. طيب. طيب. ولبنها لحظة, let me just finish this. ولبنها وكل أجزائها نجس. طيب. He said to you, طيب, this najasa, this thing that was najis, this animal that you've just found, وَلَبَنُهَا, its milk, وَكُلُّ أَجْزَائِهَا نَجِسٌ, all of its parts are najis. What does this mean? مثلا, you have an animal that you've just come across, طيب, and you found, and it is a maita. The milk that is found in it, what is it called? Another, you can, the cow, for example. Let's say you come across, and then you come across a dead cow, a maita, and then it's still got milk in its what? It's called another, right? Okay. Can you now use that milk, bring it, put it into a cup or whatever and drink it? He's saying, وَلَبَنُهَا وَكُلُّ أَجْزَائِهَا حَرَامٌ. You can't drink from its milk, nor can you cut parts of its leg and cook it and eat it. Why? Because it is a maita. نَجِسَةٌ غَيْرَ شَعَرٍ وَنَحْوِهِ. Except for what? Sha'r, the hair or the skin, whether it's fur, whether it's cotton, wool, you can take advantage of it, you can benefit from it. You can benefit from it. Why? They say, under, can you see, غير الشعر ونحوه, right? لأنه لا تحله الحياة. لا تحله الحياة. This thing, is it actually connected to the animal? Does it become, it's not part of the animal in the sense that it is part of the soul of the animal or the life of the animal. Meaning you can cut it off, as we shall see, and the animal will still be there. And it won't be haram to use. Do you not see that sometimes the sheep, they cut the wool off while they are around, alive, before even slaughtering it? طيب. Because its ajza are not, these parts are not connected to the actual animal in the inside of the animal. So it's not like it's not like the kidneys, nor is it like the milk, because the milk is also inside of it. So then it's touched the najasa. Like in this hair, or the fur, it hasn't touched the what? The najasa. It hasn't touched the najasa. طيب, based on that, can we use pig skin? Can we use dog skin? What about just for shoes?
Based on hadith, based that we're allowed to use, for example, snake skin and things like that, because of the fact that its najis isn't being touched by anything. I.e., if you're talking about like a snake or animals like that, you should be allowed to use it because its najis isn't really affecting what you're using it for, versus actually using it as storage is different case.
So what about tigers, مثلا? Tiger skin coat, fur coat, nice stuff. Why not? Yeah. يقول شيخ, he says to you, لا ولا يطرق جلد ميتة بالدباغ ويباح استعماله بعد الدبغ في يابس من حيوان طاهر في الحياة. لا, he says ويباح استعماله. استعمال اتخاذ, you can't use it either. He's saying استعمال, it's not just the storage. ابحث since في أصله نجس.
Are we not going to also say that it's not isti'mal, but the other one's for beautification? So
ابحث, search it, and then let us know. طيب. ولبن وكل أجزاء نجس غير, نعم. وما أبين من حي فهو كميتته. وما أبين من حي فهو كميتته. On top of it, write طابد, or next to وما أبين, طابد. And meme, what, 7? No. Meme 7. مسألة 7, طابد. طيب. What is the English translation of the last line in this chapter?
Anything separated from a live animal is akin to the carrion.
Who can explain that? Anything that is cut off from the animal while it is alive is akin, similar to its what? Carcass. Its mater. Put your hand up. Huh? If it is, if you, yeah. ميتة جزء من الميتة لا هذا يقول وما أبين من حي لكن something that is alive.
يعتبر كميتة. If you cut a body part of the animal, it takes the same ruling as a meter.
As a meter. Okay. So مثلا a sheep, you decide to cut the leg off or the shoulder just to eat. That is like a meter, so it's not allowed for you to eat.
Because if the sheep was meter, it would be this.
He didn't say that. تتقول عليه your صح. وما أبين, that which has been cut off من حي, from that which is alive. An animal, a human, if it is cut off, if you cut a part of that human or that animal off, فهو, يعني it is the same as كميتته. The ruling that that part takes, مثلا you have Ali standing here. You've cut Ali's hand off, صح? Put Ali's hand here. You've got whose hand here? Ali. And you've got a sheep here. This sheep, cut the leg off as well. Put the leg here. The arm of Ali is what? Tahir, it is pure. Why? Because if Ali was dead, what would he be? Tahir. If he was dead. This sheep, if it was a mater, if the sheep was a mater, what would the ruling be? Halal or haram to eat? Haram. Therefore, this part that has been cut off also becomes haram. Just like if the owner, which is that sheep, if it was to be a mater, dead, slaughtered without the Shari'i way, it would be haram. Understood? طيب. Number 2, why did I say dabid? For this sort of thing, it's better to write, or for this line, it's better to write dabid as to a qaida, rather than a qaida. Why? A dabid is like a principle, like it is only used in one chapter. مثلا وما أبين من حي فهو كميتته. That is a dabid, you can only use that in باب الآنية, especially when you're talking about jild and so on. Huh? A rule of thumb. A rule of thumb, نعم, because it is only specific to a certain number of masail. Lakin if you were to be in Kitab al-Salah and you say وَمَا أُبِينَ مِنْ حَيٍّ فَهُوَ مَيْتٌ, they think, what are you talking about? There's no hay here, there's no mater that we're discussing, and there's no ubin, we're not cutting anything off. صح? Lakin this, we're studying it here, and it can only be used in Bab al-Aniyah, or Bab al-Ad'imah, it can be talked about. So that is a dabid. Whereas a qa'ida is a little bit more comprehensive. That is a side benefit. طيب. Lakin obviously there are things with regards to this, if you cut off something or a part of the living animal, there are things that are excluded. You exclude an animal that you're hunting. An animal that you're hunting. Let's say you're hunting a rabbit. And then you shoot it down, or you hunt, whatever it might be, whatever you're hunting with. And then the arm blows off. That arm, does it become haram? Like, why? Because you're hunting aslan. The moment you say Bismillah, khalas, wherever that bullet touches or that arrow touches, it is not a mater. You're actually hunting.
Could you say also that when you study Kitab or something like that, the weapon that you use to say the Basmala on, wherever it were to hit, would become halal?
Ahsant. the weapon that you're using, wherever it hits, becomes halal. Because you're actually hunting with it. And also, misk. Why is misk halal? What is misk? Where does misk come from? The misk that you all use, where does it come from?
Is it a piece of flesh or a thing that grows on a day, and it's like part of it, it's a mutation, and it rubs it on a tree.
What is he talking about? Anyone agree with him?
Yeah, it comes from there.
It comes from there. And it's mainly in Asian countries like Cambodia and so on. So countries like that. You would find that sometimes in Riyadh, some of the students would say to the Cambodian students, get me misk when you're coming. So the deer, it's got a pouch. And that pouch is where the misk is. Subhanallah. So that misk, if you take it off while it's hay, obviously it is hay, then it becomes what? Halal to use, rather mustahab to use. And on that note, we finish Babul Aniya. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa ahkam wa billahi tawfiq. Fadal.
You know the nukta, the word sha'ri, doesn't it go back to the area in Qur'an
صحيح